So I'm back at my favorite spot. Yes, I probably overused this location, but these flowers aren't going to last very long here in the windiest capital in the world, and the sun is out. It wasn't supposed to be out today, so I'm going to go ahead and photograph Lucky 800, or as you probably would call it, Lucky 200 push 2 stops. So you might be asking, why push it 2 stops? Instead, pull it to get more information. That was one of the complaints about my last video, that apparently you should meter for the shadows, yada, 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 and all the other over-the-top BS. Well, I mean, it's not BS, you should meter for the shadows, but frankly, that is generally not what most people meter for. So why push the film 2 stops and reduce the amount of latitude and increase the contrast over pulling it? Well, generally most people push film rather than pull film. Pulling does have some benefits, but when it comes to versatility, and in particular low light situations, which is usually the biggest issue for people, pulling is not the go-to, pushing it. Now, again, I am not bothering to meter for the shadows. Yes, you can meter for the shadows if you want to, and all that other nonsense that kind of comes with that, but generally most people do not actually meter for the shadows. They point at an object and they take a photo. And that is generally what I'm trying to aim for when I am doing these tests and experiment, because frankly, not everyone has the freaking time to go ahead, meter for the shadows, pull up and take the image. Sometimes you just need to take the image. Your image needs to be the thing that is metered for, and that's all that matters.
Now, another reason why you might want to go ahead and push this film stock is 200's pretty good, except when days aren't the sunniest.
And you want to go ahead and get as much of your subject in focus and in depth. That's when you might want to push a film stock. You might want to go ahead and increase the ability to have a deeper and focused photo. And so therefore, pushing it will give you that without sacrificing your shutter speed. Now, don't expect any of these photos to actually be any good. I'm just trying to see the versatility of all this. Sometimes, as I've said before, it's not about making art, it's about knowing what the fuck you doing? So levels are pretty, so hey, maybe. Now, if you've been following my videos, I've photographed this beehive a lot, and I mean a lot. And I've tried doing infrared macros and just macros with ADOX to get high def ones, all kinds of things. One thing I find consistent when using this long telephoto lens is often when I'm shooting with 100, 200 ISO, because of the length of the barrel of the lens, I think once you go past a certain point, it increases like not just the darkness, but aperture, and there's like a whole bunch of other things to it. Kind of like when you use a macro bellows extension, it can actually decrease the amount of light that gets through. I don't know the science behind it, but the point is, often it's really hard to go ahead and photograph at speed and with enough light. So, hey, if I had an 800 ISO film stock that wasn't too bad and didn't look too bad, especially push, perfect. So let's go ahead and see if I can get a fast photo, and let's go ahead and see if it's bright enough and not too contrasty. And this is about as close as I'm going to get to those bees, because Jesus Christ, they're alive today. That went slightly out of focus. Let's try this again. Maybe, we'll see. But that's about as far as I'm getting any of those fucking bees. You know what, let's do one where we meter for the shadows. Let's see how that goes. And let's do 1 meter for the highlights or the main subject instead. Yeah, it's called being patient.
make this.
Now, you might be wondering what's on my camera here. It is a variable ND filter, so as you can see there's a minimum, which is ND2, which I think is like 1 stop, and then there is all the way up to ND400, which is about maybe like 8 stops or something like that. The reason why I've got this on is so that I can still shoot, because if F16 is ISO 100, 125 of a second on a good sunny day. Now, it's not a perfect sunny day by any means, but it is still quite bright. 800 ISO out in the middle of this day, and when there's a lot of sunlight, might not do the trick. It just might not do the trick at all. So, instead, I've got an ND filter on here that is variable, so I can cut out just as much light as I need to. Sorry for the little intrusion. I had to stop because the wind was being little too strong for my liking, and I didn't want my camera falling all the way down there. So, as I was saying, this ND filter here is designed to cut out just enough light so that I can go ahead and shoot 800 ISO in this environment, especially when it's reasonably quite bright. Now, I've gone ahead and photographed here before with Lucky 200. Of course, that was Lucky 200, not push-through stops. And of course, it's been about a month since then. The sun has moved quite dramatically since then, as we are in the southern hemisphere and we are heading towards summer. We are now in the beginning of spring. So yeah, light's a little bit different. It's not a one-for-one comparison. The light time of day is a little bit different, but still, look, you're gonna get a bit of an understanding of the difference between the two from my results if they come out. So I've said before that I've taken photos here. I said this, I think, actually on the last Lucky Color video, and yeah, may as well have a comparison shot for here again. Same different light, different everything else, yada yada yada, all that other stuff. But hey, we should get a good photo. Now, I didn't want to go ahead and photograph the same places that I'd done last time for one-to-one comparisons for the most part. I shot a fair amount of the film at the Botanic Gardens, which I've just been going to a lot because it's quite pretty at the moment. But I did want to go ahead to my favorite little coffee place and photograph there because I like to go there all the time, and it's not exactly what I'd call well lit, so it was just a good testing location, if any. We noticed there were purchases, and the purchases were like a 6-minute Uber. Yeah. And my partner instead called the cops. Yeah. And
about 6 cops head up, and I can get like more and more.
It's like Australian, right? I don't know, like the team is like super weak as well.
Well, it's fundamentally, this is what happens when a sport is no longer as common with young people.
Yeah. I think it's time to think further than that.
Yeah.
I remember years ago watching the European Cup at a friend's house. Luckily, I didn't buy one. The ticket. I was so close to buying a ticket for them.
Crying, getting put off. Like I go outside and crying about it.
So this one you were wanting to push it in?
Yeah, push 2 stops.
Okay. See some of their little thing, but you can see there, look, the flowers.
Exposures are pretty good.
Yeah. Not according to Reddit.
3 shots on one roll.
So why push this film stock? Pretty much because I could, but also I said in my last Lucky 200 videos that I was actually really happy with how the film stock was, and some considered that I might not have even been exposed to the shadows that well, and therefore, you know, there was even more that you could actually push into the film, more light. And that just really got me ticking that, yeah, I definitely wanted to see how well I could push this film stock, because we're not going to get new 800 ISO films. So best things best is to see of the new films that we do get, you know, are they able to be pushed to a range that makes them pretty good value for price and a pretty good compromise in quality if they can, you know, handle that situation good enough. Now, I did go out and about a little bit in the afternoon and, you know, just took a few photos as I was walking about. It wasn't really a one-to-one location rematch of what I'd previously done. I just wanted to finish off the roll. So I've got to say a big thank you to Splendid in Wellington, my go-to lab. They were kind enough to go ahead and have this film developed for me, and they were able to push it and get me the negatives really, really quickly. I had them within the hour, so thank you guys very much. So some issues with the film stock when you push it to 800. They're not really anything new from like film stocks that get pushed from like 200 to 800, or pushing of any film stock really. You're going to get more noticeable grain, especially if you're doing what we did, which was developing at a higher temperature. If you develop, you know, for longer and you're able to go ahead and do that, you will still get more grain, but probably not as dramatically. And then two, the issue with this film stock, as noted by the small amount of reviews that are out there, including mine, is that there are some small dots on the film stock. That is hopefully the first production batch issue and won't be prevalent in the future. However, I will say that I'm not too sure whether it was the fact that it was just the second roll, or if it was just the fact that I, you know, cooked this film more. But either way, the dots were a little bit more noticeable. Now, that being said about these issues, the results speak for themselves. The film stock handles pretty well when you go ahead and push it. Yes, more contrasty, more grainy, but within, I consider, acceptable tolerances. And, you know, if you pump the film a little bit more with a bit more light, you know, just expose it a bit more, you'll probably even get, you know, more range out of it. So I can say probably comfortably that if you did this in 120, you're not going to have grain as massive as you would in 35mm, and therefore it will handle pretty darn well. So before I show you a few more photos from the roll, I just want to reiterate can you push Lucky 200 to 800 and possibly even beyond? The answer is yes. Like all film stocks that are generally within this quality range, it is able to do so. There are some trade-offs, but yes, you could push it to 800 and possibly even further. However, I would advise to wait till there is the 120 roll, and therefore you will get significantly less grain in your image comparatively compared to 35mm. So I think I've got one shot, maybe two shots left. Let's see how it goes. Just a reminder, I'm not really caring about the fact that I'm shooting locations that I've done before a million times. Doesn't really matter. That's actually quite helpful because it gives to me an understanding of how this film stock behaves. And technically I am the most important viewer because I do these experiments mainly for myself. So let's see how this goes. Or actually, let's not do that because apparently I've already finished the roll. So I guess, as always, it's been real, guys. Sometimes you waste your time and money coming to a location to only find out you've already finished the roll. Didn't even get to 35, 36. Oh well, until next time.